Hello friends and welcome to Zonadiscgolf. Today we're going to study the third of the four flight numbers, which is the turn, which is, the initial phase of the flight that if you make a right hand backhand, your disc goes slightly to the right and deviates from the trajectory before fading to the left at the end of the flight. Why does it happen? Okay, we throw a drive, let's say 80 meters long, and let's say that the first 50 meters the disc is rising. The disc is, because of the second number, the glide, that should be called lift. It's like an airfoil that it's able to get up from the ground and fly high. If we travel, let's say 50 meters and we reach, let's say 10 meters of height, the angle will be more or less something around 10 degrees up. If we travel with our driver horizontally, but we are going 10 degrees up, the relative wind is 10 degrees down, comes downwards. Okay, you're finding the disc on the plate of the disc. This wind is gonna be able to follow the contour of the top plate more easily, okay, because it has already those 10 degrees of advantage. So it's gonna be able to follow all that contour, and it will accelerate, especially in that more curvy part of the rear of the disc. Remember that because of the Bernoulli effect, the parts where the air accelerates lowers the pressure, so it generates more lift. So the front part of the disc will generate a little bit less of lift than the rear part of the disc. So if we sum all the effects, what we have is that the center of pressure, let's say it's the point where the lift is applied, will be slightly rearward of the center of mass. So it will lift, the disc will lift, but it will lift more from the rear part than from the front part, because the air is hitting from up to down. What happens if we pull a string with the weight of the disc from the center of mass and pull another string up from the center of pressure, which is a little bit behind, that the nose goes down? Okay, that's it. That's good for us. Remember the gyroscopic effect that we saw before? What happens? It introduces the gyroscopic precession. If we try to introduce a moment on an object that is already turning, our disc is turning, let's say clockwise. Right hand rule. We put our fingers on that direction, so we have the vector, the angular momentum vector, goes from the center of the disc downwards. It's a long arrow. And now we try to put the nose down. If we follow that movement with our fingers, the angular momentum of that movement is, my thumb points left. If we have a long arrow pointing down and a short arrow pointing left, if we zoom it, the result is a long arrow pointing down and a little bit to the left. What happens with the axis? It tilts a bit, the down part to the left, so the disc tilts to the right. That is the turn of a disc. So it's simply the gyroscopic precession applied to the lift of the disc in that beginning phase of the flight. As the disc is going up, it's lifting more on the rear part of the disc than on the front part, because the wind is going up to down and is going to be able to follow all the contour on a laminar flow without any detachment. So it will introduce a nose down moment, but because of the gyroscopic precession, it will create also a right down effect that will make the disc turn right, and this is the turn of the disc. Of course, if we throw a forehand, everything is reversed. Remember that the gyroscopic precession is lazy, so if we turn to the left and we make nose down, it will be left down. That is why when you make a forehand, the turn goes left on the first and then it fades right. Okay, that's it. It's not very well known, but it's important. You see that generally when the discs have a lot of glide, they tend to be understable. They tend to have a negative value of the turn. That is because if you generate a lot of lift, If the center of pressure would be on the center of gravity, it will raise absolutely horizontal, but it's an ideal case. So generally it will go downwards. So if you have a lot of lift, it's usual to have quite a heavy turn that will turn your disc to the right on the beginning. Now, in the next chapter, we will see what happens when we are going up, reach the apex of the trajectory, what happens from that point until the disc falls to the ground. Let's see you in Zonadiscgolf.